Are you making this business destroying mistake? Something that has taken down large Fortune 500 companies. I've seen it firsthand from the inside of the company. It's also been the end of small local Main Street mom and pop companies, mom and pop shops. Is this a mistake that you're making? Bear with me. We're going to talk about this. Welcome to Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf. This is something that I've observed in companies large and small, and it is a crucial mistake that's made by the owners, by the leadership, by management in really large companies. And let me illustrate with a story. Now, this is a story from a really, really big company. So the dynamics between the people might be a little bit different from your organization. As you're watching this, you're probably running, a startup to maybe a mid-sized company where you got 50 to 150 people. This is especially true if you're in that space with 50 to 150 people. Watch out for this type of behavior starting in your company because it can be the beginning of the end. Same's true for you if you're just in startup mode or you're getting established and building up to that second level, third level in size, in scale. So here's the story. It's in a manufacturing facility for a really large company. They were building aircraft. And I'll do a disclaimer right now. It's not Boeing and it is not Airbus. Those are the only two big scale commercial aircraft companies left in the world. There are some other, like Gulfstream, Bombardier, that make a lot, Cessna make a lot of planes. Wasn't any of those. This is a large Fortune 500 level aircraft manufacturer that no longer exists. Key that no longer exists. Here's what was happening. We're doing a review of some of the factory operations. There was a critical part of the process that took a week, and it delayed the delivery of the aircraft to the customer for a week. Think about that. It's what we call critical path. You're probably familiar with that. It's on the critical path, which is the minimum time that the product can be delivered through the manufacturing process. And we're looking at this and going, here's something. It takes an entire week. It's dependent on one person. Think about that. One person costs an entire manufacturing week for the delivery of a commercial airliner. Right? So this is a product that, let's call it $100 million. Not unusual in today's sales of commercial airliners. $100 million product. So manufacturing cost is something less than 100 million. Let's just stay with that number for our little chat here. This is just between us. So a $100 million product, a week of manufacturing time. Think of what that costs in a facility, in a campus that has 22,000 people. You can't get paid for the work they're doing for a week because of one task being done by one person. Now, the person that did that, awesome individual, exceptional at their craft. The challenge was it was craft. It was very skilled activity, very skilled craftsmanship fabrication that was being done to fix errors, really, that were building up from other parts of the manufacturing process. We found a way by changing before I get to that, I almost forgot. If there's only one person that could do this, the second best person in the entire company, 22,000 people. The second best at it took a month to do it. So consider that. This takes a week on this delays your ability to invoice your customer and get paid by a week. If that person is unable to do it, they have an emergency, heaven forbid something should happen to them and they can't work and someone else has to step in. The number 2 best person on the planet at doing what that person does adds another 3 weeks to how long it takes to deliver what you're doing, to deliver your product, deliver your service, also delivering your revenue, right? Those of us living the entrepreneurial life, cash flow is king, cash is king, right? So you can't get the cash to offset the expense of the operation, and consider how expensive this operation was. Payroll, 22,000 people, over 2 million square feet in operations. Okay. So this it's a very, very expensive. We put a dollar figure on what a manufacturing day cost. I'm not even going to repeat it because it was ridiculous. It was a hard to believe number, even though it was rooted in validated data from that company's cost accounting organization. But needless to say, it's phenomenally expensive. It's in the, it's in the millions. It cost millions per day to run that operation. You can't get sales revenue in the door to offset that, to pay for that, because of this one task. It delays that revenue for another week, right? Think it in those terms. Those are the real terms that we live in, right? In the entrepreneurial space, the mid-sized company space. What would that cost you if you got delayed a month before you could invoice and get that money in? Right? Invoicing and getting the money are two different things, as you well know, as you're watching this, right? You send the invoice out, then you get paid. Some customers are really good about paying quickly. Some are not. Got to manage those accounts receivable. In this case, given the nature of the hardware and the dollar amounts that were involved, actually getting the cash in hand after delivering a product of that immense cost, $100 million product, you didn't get paid in one lump sum right away. It took some time to get that money back. So this is very serious in being able to do something about not just the week that we were being delayed in our cash flow, but also the risk of having that extended to a month. And then the number 3 person at doing that took even longer. And let me be clear. These were people that were excellent at what they did. They were the best in the world at what they did. They're wonderful people to work with. Here's what we found. We could reorder the steps taken to build the product up to that point, and that entire week of activity, that entire week of labor, that entire week of delay, that entire week of manufacturing cost would be eliminated. So we eliminate millions of dollars in cost per aircraft delivered, and we eliminate the risk that's involved in having, having the specialist that does that, because there's only one specialist that could really meet the performance level that we had, right? And it gets 3 times worse than that. The next best person was 4 times slower, 4 times more expensive, because that delay that cost us 3 more manufacturing weeks that we had to pay for before we could get the product delivered and get paid for the product. Very, very expensive. So we looked at that. We talked to people who were doing the work, and they were fine with that because there was plenty of work to be done. We weren't costing anybody their jobs. We're going to look, if we reorder this, reassign some people in how, not where they're working, but how they're doing the work, the sequence in which they're doing the work. These millions of dollars of cost could be eliminated. We could deliver a week faster. We could eliminate millions of dollars in cost, and we're still employing the same number of people. Everybody wins. Here's the mistake the company made that led to its downfall, the downfall of the company. The entire conversation revolved around who had the authority to put that data together, uncover the problem, define it in the way we did, and to make a presentation to the management team like we did. Had nothing to do with the existence of the problem, had nothing to do with improving the working conditions, with improving the performance. All it had to do with was whose authority to do what, who was in charge of whom, where, and could say what got done when. It was an internal battle on what's going on, who's in charge of what. The dumbest thing that, to me, I was astounded. Now, what brought the company down was not that one decision. What brought the company down was the fact that they were completely unable to deliver on customer expectations, because that same attitude, that same decision-making process was repeated again and again and again throughout the 22,000 people within the company, within the multiple departments that those 22,000 people worked for. They were so busy fighting over internal issues that they forgot to deliver for the customer. And the customer told them that point blank. It was one of the reasons we were doing the work we were doing. And they never made the improvement. It came to, you can imagine where that leads. They didn't do what needed to be done to serve the market and to be efficient and profitable in serving the market, be effective and profitable in serving the market, and listening to what the market said and listening to what the people were saying. Hey, here, we've got a better way to do this. We all win if we do. And it's like, no, you in that position don't have the authority to say that. The first response was to fire the two people that had put the information together that led us to that understanding that, look, all we need to do is change the work sequence and we have an incredible win for everybody. And it's like, no. We're not even going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is we want the two people that pointed that out removed from the company. We want other, so then there's this fight between different departments. Now, with your company, you're watching this, you're saying, I've got a small company, I've got a mid-sized company. We never have that problem. I would never do that. Really? Are you sure about that? Do you have that kind of internal focus seeping into your organization? Do you have that type of internal focus that's ignoring the marketplace, that is creating, empowering internal negative competition instead of external marketplace? We're competing. Competing in the marketplace is positive. Internal competition can be negative when it's like that, right? It's destructive. It's self-destructive because it's more about who gets to do what and who's in charge of whom, as opposed to, hey, how do we get the customer served better? And one of the overarching issues with this operation was their customer was screaming for them to serve them better. They wanted better designs. They weren't listening to the design changes they want, partly because they were too involved, too wrapped around the axle, as we used to say back in the day, about who had the authority to do what. So eventually, it was within 2 years. Actually, it was less than 2 years, way less than 2 years. Within 18 months, it was announced that that company was going to be no more because they were no longer viable in the marketplace. 22,000 people, 2 million square feet of manufacturing and office space. Gone. In large part because there was so much internal focus, so much infighting, so much being off target of what the purpose of the organization was, the values that it was founded on and run on for decades. They were a legend in their industry, and they came to a sad end. So, sorry, it's no longer possible. It came from the top. They brought someone in to make changes and turn things around, quite frankly, because it was clear that they were failing in the marketplace already. Even though they had some orders, even though they had customers that had been long-term and were asking for more. But you know what? The people inside the organization were saying, no, customer, you don't understand. That's not what you really want here. We're going to send you this. And they're like, you're not listening to us. We don't want to buy that anymore. This is what we need. It's a new market for us. In order for us to serve our customers effectively, this is what we need. No. Understand. We understand your customers are saying that, but that's not the point. The point is, this is what you really need. See, this will be more cost efficient for you. And there's a lot of wonderful sounding reasons, mostly ignoring the ultimate end customer, those that fly in the planes, those that fly the planes, the staff that runs the planes while the customers are on board, moving from where they're at to where they need to get to. Ignored all that. And this legendary company ceased to exist. And in observing that one microcosm, that one, yes, we could save these millions of dollars, but we don't care because you don't have the authority to be addressing that question, to addressing that issue. You don't have the authority to solve that problem. And those that do aren't going to get involved with that. That's not their focus. Are you doing that? When you get input from a customer, are you really listening? Are you seizing opportunities in the marketplace that require adapting what you do, adapting how your company operates in order to fill that market need, to thrive in the chaos that we've been seeing in the last year and a half, and that will continue for at least another 15 months? Are you making that mistake? Are you so focused on internal stuff, on day-to-day life stuff, on family stuff that you're boom, boom, you're bapping up against obvious solutions, improvements that'll take you forward into the future one? Are you allowing your company to drift off of the purpose you had when you created it, the purpose it served in the marketplace, the need that it filled when you founded that company? Are you allowing the values that you put in place that built your company, that you stand on when eye to eye with your customer, are you allowing those values to be watered down or completely ignored in the day-to-day operation of the company? Are you allowing people into your company that don't fit in that value system? That's not a comment on them. There's a place for everyone. And if someone doesn't fit, that can be a very, very detrimental force within your company. You got to have clarity on why you started. You need to clearly communicate to the people you're bringing on board, the people that work with you, remind them of that and how that aligns with what they believe, with where they're going in life. If you're not doing that, sorry for wagging my finger at you, but if you're not doing that, you may be sowing the seeds of the destruction of your company. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but eventually that's going to become a problem because you'll have too much of this going on inside to be able to serve the market outside. Big company or small, that's the beginning of the end. When that focus becomes internal, you're not listening to your customer. You're drifting from your purpose. You're not honoring the values that you founded the company on, and that your core team that first came with you, that's helped make you what your business what it is today, that they were aligned with. You got some of your most highly valued people leaving. That could be a big warning sign. There's a couple reasons for that. It could just be that you're going to the next level and they're not right for the next level. Some people are brilliant. They're gifted at startup. It's chaotic. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of uncertainty, and being able to create order out of that and focus on delivering value into the marketplace. That's great. When you get to that next level, that may not be their gift because it requires a little bit different skill set. You get to the next level above that, you got 50, 150 people in your company. That's a completely different skill set. For you, your role is changing. Excuse me. And your management team, your leadership team that you should be developing at that point. If you're not, here's a tip. You better be, start thinking about that. That takes a different skill set for them. So sometimes people moving on is just natural part of it, and it's good for them because they get to grow and find out how much runway they have. It's good for the company because it allows the company to grow, because otherwise you get lids, right? And this is what I saw in that big company. This is what I was talking about. There's a lid there. They couldn't see past the day-to-day operations, their day-to-day responsibility, their day-to-day, hey, I build my career by making my domain bigger, by making my span of control within the company bigger, even if it's to the detriment of the company. There's so many things wrong with that scenario. We could talk about that some more. Going to keep this brief and focus because I want you to think about, are you making that mistake? Are you allowing your leadership team, your key staff, your key leaders within your company to unwittingly make that mistake? You're starting that drift. Correct it. So what are your thoughts? Come on, this is 21st Century Television, live and interactive. Keep watching the comments. You got comments, questions, want to have this as a conversation. So think about that. Are you making that mistake? Are you going to end up like that legendary aircraft manufacturer that no longer exists? Are all the automotive companies that were legends in their time that are no longer around? All the motorcycle companies Harley Davidson and Indian are still around. Indian took a hiatus, but they started before Harley did. Both of those companies survived over 130 competitors. That's just the domestic manufacturers. What will your legacy be? So thanks for joining me for Wolf's Watch. I'm Wolf, and I will see you on the trail. I hope.